Hi, so this is my summary of the first Wise Leader interview, and I had originally chosen to do my principal at my school because of his wonderful leadership, and so a lot of my questions were geared towards that, and some things ended up happening during the week, so I had to go to who I was going to do my second interview with, um, my assistant principal, Mr. Callahan, and he actually worked out well today because he ended up being a guy who does not do change well and does not like change. And so my principal is more of a change junkie like me, and he loves to do things differently. So it was kind of nice to start off an interview with someone who kind of likes things the way they are. Um, we talked for a little bit about leadership before the interview and some of his duties. He's been at my school for 9 years, and he is the assistant principal. He deals with the building and some of the cleaning staff and lunchroom and the kids' behavior issues. So he has a lot of change that he's dealt with over the past years, especially with our school, and we've built on a lot, and he's been in charge of all that. So in some ways, he does like change. And so in our interview, I talked a little bit about his leadership qualities and what did he think was the most valuable part of being a leader and an administrator in a school. And he gave me three things. He said availability was great, always being available to not only the students, the parents, and also the teachers at any cost, because you need to be able to talk to people and they want to know that you're listening to them. So he says availability was very important. And he also said that being fair with all the students, especially in what he does, he works with the behavior problems and any issues that come up. And so being fair is very important to him. Consistency, which in all school job titles is a big deal. Being consistent kind of goes along with being fair, in that everybody wants to be treated equally, and if you're consistent, they'll respect you more. The next thing I talked about with him is what he thought as a leader was his biggest accomplishment, and he has taught for, he was a teacher before he was a principal, and so as an assistant principal, he's been at my school for 9 years, and he thought that was one of his biggest accomplishments as a leader, being in our school system and kind of running things around our school. Then after I moved from our leadership conversation, I also wanted to know about change and how he felt about it. And he is not a big component on change, as are many people in my school system, because we have a really great school system who we do things great, and a lot of people don't want to mess it up, so they kind of keep things the same. But we're constantly looking for ways to make our greatness even better. So in that way, we are, and he is. He likes change, but he pretty much thinks that our school system is great, and that change is not a necessity for us at this point. He asked what he thought was his greatest, or the greatest change he's experienced in all his years in education, and he said that technology, which I also agree with, has been one of the greatest things. A quote from him said, "The greatest change we've had is technology, and 95% of it has been awesome, but with every change comes new challenges, and we have to do what's best for the kids." And that's at the 2-minute 15-second mark of my video I'm going to post with this. He says that every 20 years it kind of goes back and forth of we go one way, and then 20 years later, everybody's going the opposite way, trying to figure out kind of what's best for everything. But he always says that kids come first whenever thinking of change and how it'll affect them. When talking about technology, he said just in his 13 years in education, technology has taken us light years in so many facets and different ways of teaching, administration, and instruction. And that just in those few years, technology has done all this for us. So he said that has been one of the greatest changes he's ever experienced with his time in education. His hardest change, he said, was through the bureaucracy of just funding of schools and the politics that are in some schools and systems, and it just works its way through the systems, and people can't get away from it, and it kind of tears down any change that we're trying to take. I found it interesting because my principal loves change, and so it was really interesting to see my assistant principal's point of view, because I've always kind of thought of him as a change person, and he is kind of stuck in his ways. So it was interesting to have this conversation with him about it. I asked him about his school change and what he thought about it and how he thought about change, and of course he said that he thinks that some schools and some school systems need that radical change. They need to have those big things come into their schools and completely change it around. But in our school system, we just work really hard at what we do, and we try to do our best. And so radical changes aren't exactly what we need at this point, we think. But there are definitely some small changes in the school that we could use. I also asked him, just in general, as education as a whole, what he thought would be the best change for education, and like most people would say, he thought better funding for the teachers, that we deserve to be paid more for what we do, and that for the kids, they needed more resources to be able to get their hands on those resources, and then class sizes should be smaller, and that the facilities need to be up to date, and that should be taken care of by the state, which I'm pretty sure we can all agree on. So that is pretty much my summary of my interview. It was definitely eye-opening, and I'm kind of excited to meet with my principal next time, who actually likes change and has been through many changes since he's been in education almost 40 years. So I will let you know how that goes. Thanks.